My family hosted a holiday dinner without me, then blocked me when I asked why. My name is Erica. I'm 32 years old and I live in the US. I'm posting from a throwaway because my family loves screenshots and I'm not giving them more material. I want to start by saying I'm not someone who thrives on conflict. I'm actually the person who avoids it. I'm the one who sends the happy birthday, texts on time, brings a dish to gatherings, and tries to keep conversations light. I'm not perfect, but I'm not drama. In my family, though, drama isn't about behavior. It's about who they've decided is difficult. And for most of my life, that person has been me. I'm the middle child. My older brother, Jason, is the golden child first grandkid. First to graduate, first to get married, the one everyone praises. My younger sister, Lily, is the baby sensitive, artistic, constantly protected. I'm the one in between, the one who's expected to be flexible, the one who's strong, which is family code for we can neglect you and you'll survive. My parents divorced when I was 19. It split the family in a weird way, but the theme stayed the same. Keep things polite and don't rock the boat. My mom is the kind of person who cares deeply about appearances and hates any situation where she might look like a bad mother. She will do almost anything to avoid being questioned. That becomes relevant. This year, I thought things were improving. I'd been in therapy, working on boundaries, and not over-explaining myself. I'd also stopped doing something I used to do. I stopped being the family's free labor. For years, if there was a holiday, I cooked. If there was a move, I packed boxes. If there was a crisis, I answered the phone. When my brother needed help with his kids, I babysat. When my sister needed money, I sent it. And my family treated it like it was normal, like my role was to cover the gaps. Earlier this year, I finally said no to something. It wasn't even huge. My brother asked me to watch his 2 kids for a weekend because he and his wife wanted a reset trip. I said I couldn't. I had plans. I was exhausted, and I didn't want to. My brother laughed and said, "You're always busy now." I said calmly, "Yes, I am." He got quiet. Then he said, "Okay, whatever." After that, I noticed a shift, subtle. Calls stopped, invitations came later, messages were shorter. Then, in October, my mom called and said we were doing a big holiday dinner this year, extended family, cousins, the full thing. She said it would be at my aunt's house. My aunt Deb is my mom's older sister, and Deb is the queen of hosting. She's also the kind of person who believes if you're not smiling, you're attacking her. I said I'd be there. I even offered to bring 2 dishes. My mom said, "Oh, no need, Deb has it." That should have been a red flag. Deb always has it, but she still expects everyone to perform for her. The week before the dinner, I texted Deb to ask what time I should arrive and if she needed help setting up. No response. I texted again the next day, thinking she'd missed it. Still nothing. I called my mom and asked, "Hey, is Deb okay?" She's not replying. My mom paused and said, "Oh, she's just busy. Busy enough to ignore basic coordination." 2 days later, my sister Lily texted me, "Are you coming to the dinner early or just showing up?" I stared at the message. "Early?" I asked. "No one told me about early." Lily replied, "Oh, okay." That "oh" felt loaded. I asked, "What time is it again?" Lily sent 6. That was it. No emoji, no warmth. By then, my stomach was tight with suspicion, but I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself maybe everyone was just stressed. The day of the dinner, I got dressed and drove to Deb's neighborhood with my dish anyway because I didn't want to show up empty-handed even if I didn't feel wanted. I pulled into the street and immediately noticed something. The driveway was full, cars lined up, lights on, laughter visible through the windows. The dinner had started, and I hadn't been told. My chest tightened. I checked my phone. No new messages. No running late. No, where are you? I parked and walked to the door, dish in my hands, feeling like I was walking into my own humiliation. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. I could hear voices inside. I could hear my mom's laugh. I knocked a 3rd time, and the door finally opened, not fully, just enough for Deb's face to appear. She looked at me like I was a stranger. "What are you doing here?" she asked. My stomach dropped. "It's the holiday dinner," I said. "I'm here." Deb's eyes narrowed. "We didn't expect you," she said. I blinked. My mom said, Deb cut me off. No extra drama, she said, and started to close the door. Deb, I said, voice shaking, what are you talking about? Deb's face hardened. You always make things tense, she snapped. We're not doing that tonight. Then she shut the door in my face. I stood on the porch holding a dish like an idiot. My hands were shaking. My ears were ringing. Then my phone buzzed. I looked down and saw I had been blocked by Deb. Blocked. Immediately. Like she'd been waiting. I stood there, stunned, and realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a plan. And now I was outside, literally and socially, while my entire family was inside pretending I didn't exist. I got back in my car and sat there breathing hard. My first instinct was to call my mom and demand an explanation. Then I remembered something my therapist told me. When someone excludes you deliberately, they want you to explode. They want proof you're the problem. So I didn't call. I drove home. And on the drive, something else hit me. Deb said no extra drama, like she was quoting someone. Because Deb doesn't come up with that phrasing on her own. Someone had been telling her a story about me. A story so convincing she felt justified shutting the door on me. And I had a pretty good guess who the storyteller was. Because there's only one person in my family who benefits from me being the villain. My brother. I got home and put the dish I'd made in my fridge without even tasting it. My hands were still shaking. I sat on my couch staring at my phone like it was an enemy, because I knew the next step in these situations. Someone would try to control the story before I could. But there was nothing to post, nothing to tag, no dramatic scene, just me standing on my aunt's porch and being shut out like I was contagious. I didn't text my mom that night. I didn't want to fight. I wanted clarity. At 9:47 p.m., my mom finally texted, "Where did you go?" That message made my stomach turn. She knew I wasn't there, but she was pretending it was my choice. I replied calmly, "I showed up. Deb said you didn't expect me and shut the door. She blocked me." My mom didn't respond for almost 10 minutes, which is a long time for her. Then she wrote, "I don't know what happened. Deb is stressed. Let's not make it worse. Let's not make it worse." Another phrase that means, accept humiliation quietly. I typed, "Why wasn't I invited? Why did she say no extra drama?" My mom replied, "Can we talk tomorrow?" That meant she didn't want anything in writing. So I didn't call. I responded, "Email or text is fine. I want it in writing." Silence. Then Lily texted me, "Mom is crying. Why are you doing this?" I stared at my sister's message and felt something cold settle in me, because it confirmed what I suspected. They were already framing me as the aggressor. I replied to Lily, "I'm not doing anything. I was excluded." Lily replied, "Deb said you've been saying stuff about her." I blinked. "What stuff?" Lily didn't answer. She just wrote, "It's complicated. Complicated is what people say when the truth is ugly." I went to bed angry and woke up with the same anger, which almost never happens to me. Usually anger burns out into sadness. This time it stayed hot because it felt planned. The next morning, my brother Jason called me. Jason doesn't call unless something is on fire. Hearing his voice made my chest tighten. He didn't say hello. He said, "What the hell did you do?" I stared at the wall. "Me?" I asked. Jason sighed aggressively. "Deb is furious. Mom is embarrassed. Why would you show up uninvited?" Uninvited. They were rewriting it already. "I was invited," I said. "Mom told me 6 o'clock. Jason scoffed. "Deb says she told everyone a different time. She said you knew not to come." "Why would I know not to come?" I asked, still calm, trying to keep my voice steady. Jason said, "Because you've been causing tension. You've been making comments about how Deb uses people." My stomach dropped. "I never said that," I said. Jason replied, "Well, she says you did. And honestly, it sounds like you." Sounds like you. That's how scapegoating works. People believe the version that fits the role. I asked, "Who told her that?" Jason went quiet. I waited. Then he said, "It doesn't matter." It mattered. His silence was the answer. "Jason," I said, "did you tell Deb I said something?" Jason snapped, "I was just warning her that you've been weird lately." Weird lately, because I said no to babysitting and stopped being free labor. I said, "So you told her I'm drama." Jason said, "You are drama. Look at you right now." I felt my hand shake. "I'm not yelling," I said. "I'm asking." Jason laughed bitterly. "You always play innocent," he said. "You always do this thing where you act calm, but you're trying to control everyone." I realized then that Jason wasn't confused. He was annoyed I wasn't compliant. I asked, "Why?" Jason exhaled sharply. "Because you've been acting like you're better than everyone," he said. "You stopped helping. You stopped showing up. You stopped being family." I stared. "I stopped being family," I repeated. "Or, I stopped being useful?" Jason went silent. Then he said, "You're impossible." And he hung up. I sat there with my phone in my hand and felt something click. Not rage, clarity. Jason had been feeding Deb a narrative that I was extra drama because he wanted control of the family dynamic. If I was excluded, the family would be easier to manage. Fewer boundaries, fewer no's, more free help. Then I remembered something important. There's always a paper trail. Families love to pretend they don't, but they do. Group chats, messages, invitations. Someone always says something in writing. So I went to the family group chat. The one I usually muted because it's mostly memes and passive-aggressive holiday planning. I scrolled back, and there it was. A week before the dinner, my Aunt Deb had sent, "Holiday dinner at 5, please arrive on time." 5? My mom told me 6. Then I saw Jason's reply under it, "Perfect, we'll keep it low stress this year." Low stress, that phrase was his code. Then, 2 days later, Deb wrote, "No surprises, no extra drama. I'm serious." And Jason replied, "Agreed, I'll handle it." "I'll handle it." My stomach turned. Handle what? Handle me? I screenshotted the messages and sent them to myself. Receipts. Then I texted my mom. "Deb said 5 inches the group chat. You told me 6. Why?" My mom responded instantly this time. "Deb changed it last minute." I replied, "No, she didn't. The group chat shows 5 a week ago." My mom stopped responding. So I texted Deb from a different number, my work phone, because she had blocked mine. I kept it calm. "Deb, why was I excluded? I saw Jason say he would handle it." Deb replied one line, "Do not contact me." Okay. Then I got a text from my cousin Sarah. "Erica, I'm sorry, I didn't know you weren't invited." I stared. "Was I not invited?" I asked. Sarah replied, "Deb said you asked not to come because you were taking space from the family." Taking space. A lie. I asked Sarah, "Who told her that?" Sarah hesitated, then said, "Jason told Deb you've been unstable and that you might cause a scene." Unstable. Like my mom uses. Like my family uses to excuse their cruelty. I felt heat rise in my face. I asked Sarah if she would send me a screenshot of what she was told. She did. Deb had messaged Sarah earlier. "Erica won't be coming. Jason said she needs space and we're not going to trigger her." Trigger her. They were talking about me like I was a bomb they needed to defuse. And all of it came from my brother. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg for a seat at a table where I was only wanted as a servant. I was going to expose the truth once, to the whole family, with receipts, and then step back. Because if I kept trying to explain privately, Jason would keep rewriting it. Public truth was the only way to stop the story. I wrote one message to the family group chat. I showed up to Deb's dinner and was turned away. Deb said no extra drama and blocked me. I now have screenshots showing Jason told Deb I was unstable and that he'd handle it. I never asked to skip the holiday. If you want to believe lies about me, that's your choice, but I'm done being scapegoated. Then I attached 3 screenshots only. Deb's no extra drama plus Jason's I'll handle it. Deb telling cousin Sarah, "I'm taking space." Jason accusing me of being unstable. Then I muted the chat and put my phone down. I didn't watch the explosion. I didn't want the adrenaline. But I heard about it anyway. Because within 10 minutes my mom was calling. And for the first time, she wasn't asking what happened. She was asking why I embarrassed her. My mom's first words on the phone were, "Why would you do that?" I said, "Do what?" "You posted screenshots," she snapped, "in the family chat." I stared at the wall, jaw clenched. "Because I was excluded based on lies," I said. My mom sighed like I was a difficult employee. Erica, she said, you're making it worse. I replied, no. Jason made it worse. Deb made it worse. You made it worse by letting it happen. My mom's voice rose. Jason was trying to protect the dinner. From what? I asked. Me existing? My mom went quiet for half a second, then said, you know your sister is sensitive. I almost laughed. My sister wasn't even the issue, I said. This is Jason. My mom snapped. Stop blaming him, he's trying. Trying. Again. The family language that excuses everything. I said, Mom, you told me 6 when it was 5. My mom hesitated. I said, you were part of it. My mom's tone hardened. I told you 6 because Deb said you were taking space, she said. I didn't want conflict. There it was. She admitted she knew. She knew I was being excluded and she helped make it look like I chose it. I felt numb. So you lied, I said. My mom replied, I was keeping the peace. Peace. The word that always means sacrifice, Erica. I hung up. Then Lily texted me, you're destroying the family. I replied, I'm telling the truth. Then Lily sent, Jason says you're doing this because you're jealous of him. Jealous. Another script word. I didn't respond. Because I was done chasing arguments. 2 days later, my Aunt Deb unblocked me just to send one message. You are not welcome in my home again. I stared at it. Not welcome in her home. The same woman who had accepted my help for years. The same woman who used to call me when she needed a last-minute dish or someone to set up chairs. Now I was not welcome. It would have crushed me if I hadn't already realized something. Deb never wanted me. She wanted my labor. Then the twist happened. A different aunt, my dad's sister, texted me privately, Erica, call me. I hadn't spoken to her in months. I called. She said, quietly, I think you should know why Jason did this. My stomach tightened. Why? She exhaled. Jason is asking the family for money, she said. Money? I went silent. My aunt continued. He told everyone he's having cash flow issues and needs help. Deb and your mom are trying to keep the dinner pleasant because Jason is trying to secure a loan from Grandma. I felt sick. So that was it. Excluding me wasn't just personal. It was strategic. Because I'm the only one who says no. I'm the only one who asks questions. I'm the only one who would have told Grandma not to give Jason money without accountability. They didn't want me at dinner because I would disrupt Jason's fundraising. I asked my aunt, how much? She hesitated. 25,000, she whispered. For business. Business. Jason has never run a business. He has run schemes. I thanked my aunt and hung up. Then I did the most important thing. I called my grandmother. My grandmother is the matriarch. She's also the person everyone treats like a bank with feelings. She's in her 70s, lives alone, and hates conflict, which makes her a target. When she answered, she sounded cheerful. Hi, sweetheart. I swallowed. Grandma, did Jason ask you for money? There was a pause. Too long. Then she said, softly, he mentioned he might need help. I closed my eyes. I said, Grandma, please don't give him anything until we talk. My grandmother sighed. Erica, you always assume the worst. I replied, because I've seen the pattern. My grandmother hesitated. Jason said you've been angry, she said. I almost laughed. Jason also said I asked not to come to dinner, I said. That wasn't true. My grandmother went quiet. I said, Grandma, they excluded me on purpose. My grandmother whispered, why? I took a breath. Because Jason is trying to get money and he didn't want me asking questions. Silence. Then my grandmother said, is that true? I replied, you can ask him. My grandmother's voice got shaky. He said it's for his kids, she whispered. There it was, the emotional hook, kids. I said, Grandma, I love the kids, but Jason uses them as leverage. My grandmother started crying quietly. I just want peace, she said. I whispered, so do I. But peace can't be bought by rewarding lies. After that call, I felt sick, but also grounded, because I knew the real battle wasn't the holiday dinner. It was protecting my grandmother from being used. Jason called me that night. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. You're dead to me. I deleted it. Then he texted, stay out of my business. Business. Again. That message was confirmation. So I sent one final text to my grandmother. Please don't commit to anything. I love you. I'm here. Then I blocked my brother for the first time in my life. The next day, my mom called, calmer, like she was trying a different approach. She said, if you apologize, we can move on. Apologize. For being excluded and lied about. I said, no. My mom's voice sharpened. Then you're choosing this. I replied, no. You chose it when you lied. And I hung up. At that point, I thought the story was done. I'd been excluded. I'd exposed the lie. I'd protected my grandmother. But then 2 weeks later, my phone rang again. It was my Aunt Deb. Crying. The same aunt who blocked me and called me drama. And the first thing she said was, Erica, we need your help. When Deb called me crying, I almost didn't answer. I watched the phone ring and felt my chest tighten with anger. Why should I help someone who shut the door in my face? But then I remembered my grandmother. If Deb was calling, it likely meant something had happened involving Grandma. So I answered. What? I asked. Deb sobbed. Jason did something. I didn't soften my voice. What did he do? I asked. Deb took a shaky breath. He took Grandma's debit card, she whispered. My stomach dropped. What? Deb continued, voice frantic. He convinced her to lend it to him for groceries and then he withdrew a bunch of cash. Grandma doesn't even understand. I felt cold all over. How much? I asked. Deb hesitated. We don't know yet, she said. But Grandma's account is low. I closed my eyes, trying not to explode. This is why I wasn't invited, I said quietly. Deb didn't respond. She just cried harder. I said, where is Grandma? At my house, Deb said. She's confused. She thinks it's her fault. I felt rage and grief twist together. I said, I'm coming. When I arrived at Deb's house, it felt surreal walking into the same home that had shut me out. Deb opened the door and looked ashamed. I'm sorry, she whispered, but it sounded like she meant, sorry you were right, not sorry I hurt you. I didn't accept or reject it. I walked straight to my grandmother. Grandma was sitting in Deb's living room with a blanket over her lap, face pale. When she saw me, she started crying. Oh, honey, she sobbed. I messed up. I knelt in front of her and took her hands. You didn't mess up, I said. Jason manipulated you. Grandma shook her head. He said it was just for the kids, she whispered. He said he'd pay me back Friday. I felt my throat tighten. I know, I said gently. He lied. Deb's husband stood awkwardly near the doorway. My mom was there too, eyes red, but she wouldn't look at me directly. I asked, where is Jason? No one answered. Then my mom spoke quietly. He won't answer. He says you turned everyone against him. I stared at her. He stole Grandma's card, I said. Stop making this about feelings. My mom flinched. Deb said, what do we do? I took a slow breath and did what I always do in a crisis. I became the adult. We call the bank, I said. We freeze the card, freeze the account, and report fraud. My mom snapped, no, don't do that. That's serious. I stared at her. It is serious, I said. He stole from Grandma. My mom's voice rose, panicked. He's family. I replied, so is Grandma. That shut her up. We called the bank. We put a stop on the card. The bank confirmed multiple cash withdrawals and a transfer. They asked if it was authorized. Grandma said no, shaking. The bank representative said, then this is fraud. You should file a police report. My mom's face went white. Deb looked at me like she wanted permission. Should we? She asked. I said, yes. And that's when my mom snapped at me again, louder, shaking with anger. You always do this. You always escalate. I stared at her. Mom, I said, this isn't escalation. This is reality. My mom started crying. You want to destroy your brother, she sobbed. I replied, he is destroying himself. Deb filed the police report. Grandma was trembling. I stayed with her and kept my voice calm, telling her it wasn't her fault. Then my mom did something I didn't expect. She whispered to me in the kitchen, like it was a secret. If you just talk to him, he'll bring the money back. I stared at her. So you're asking me to negotiate with a thief, I said. My mom's eyes flashed. "He's not a thief," she hissed. "He's desperate." I felt disgust rise. "Desperate people still know right from wrong," I said. Then I understood why my mom was panicking. It wasn't just about Jason getting in trouble. It was about her own role. Because she had enabled him, defended him, protected him, and excluded me so he could do this. And now she didn't want the consequences to land on her worldview. The police report triggered an investigation. The bank started a fraud process. Deb and Grandma spoke to an officer who explained next steps. Within 24 hours, Jason called Deb. Not Grandma, Deb. He screamed that we were ruining his life. Deb told him to return the money. Jason refused. Then he called my mom. My mom cried and begged him to fix it. He didn't. He sent a group text to the family. "Erica is trying to get me arrested. Don't trust her." No one responded. Because now everyone had seen what happens when you protect him. I didn't reply either. I just kept supporting Grandma. 2 days later, Jason finally called me. First time in years he called me directly. I answered. He didn't say hello. He said, "You think you won?" I kept my voice calm. "Return Grandma's money," I said. Jason laughed bitterly. "I needed it," he snapped. I said, "Not your money." Jason hissed, "You're dead to me." I replied, "Return the money." He hung up. That was the final confirmation. He wasn't sorry. He was angry he couldn't control the situation anymore. And that's when Deb said the sentence that made the whole holiday dinner exclusion feel almost absurd. "I should have listened to you." I looked at her. "Yes," I said. "You should have." Now the family wanted me involved because I was useful again, but I wasn't going back to being useful without respect. So I made my final boundary. Not in anger, in calm. A week after the police report, the family dynamics shifted in a way I'd never seen. Deb, who had blocked me and called me extra drama, started texting me politely. My mom, who told me I was destroying the family, started speaking to me carefully. My sister Lily, who accused me of ruining everything, suddenly wanted to talk. It wasn't because they suddenly understood me. It was because Jason finally crossed a line that affected someone they couldn't ignore, Grandma. When I realized that, I felt a strange calm. Because it meant the issue was never that I was dramatic. The issue was that I was inconvenient. I was the person who wouldn't pretend. And pretending is the glue in families like mine. Jason was eventually located. The bank fraud process forced him to return part of the money quickly, and the rest became part of a repayment arrangement through legal channels. I won't share specific numbers, but it was significant enough that Grandma couldn't just shrug it off. Grandma was embarrassed. She kept whispering, "I should have known." I told her gently, "You trusted your grandson. That's not a crime." The real crime was what he did with that trust. My mom, however, was still trying to soften it. She kept saying things like, "Jason made a bad choice," instead of, "Jason stole." Language matters. It's how people avoid reality. One evening, after visiting Grandma, my mom asked if we could talk alone. She looked tired, actually tired, not performance tired. She said, "You were right." I stared at her. That sentence was rare. Then she added, "But you didn't have to embarrass us in the group chat." There it was. Even in her apology, she wanted to redirect to optics. I said, "Mom, you embarrassed yourselves when you lied and excluded me." My mom's eyes filled. "I didn't know what to do," she whispered. I replied, "You could have told the truth." She flinched. Then she said, "If you forgive us, can we be a family again?" I took a breath. "I'm not forgiving a pattern," I said. "I'm changing my relationship with it." My mom looked confused, so I explained calmly. "I will have a relationship with you and Grandma. I will not have a relationship with Jason, and I will not attend any event where I'm expected to be the scapegoat to keep things peaceful," my mom whispered. "So you're choosing to divide the family?" I said, "No. Jason divided it when he stole." My mom started crying and said, "He's my son." I replied, "And I'm your daughter. You didn't protect me from him. Now I'm protecting myself." That was the first time I said it out loud without guilt. Over the next month, I stayed consistent. I visited Grandma. I helped Deb with paperwork she didn't understand because she asked respectfully. I ignored messages that were manipulative. When Lily texted, "Can you just apologize to keep peace?" I replied, no. When Deb hinted, maybe we can all be together again if you just let this go, I said, no. And eventually, they stopped testing it. Not because they agreed, but because they realized I wasn't moving. The strangest part was how peaceful my life became once I wasn't constantly bracing for the next family drama. No more group chat anxiety. No more being volunteered for babysitting. No more last-minute demands. I realized how much of my mental space had been occupied by trying to be good enough to earn basic respect. As for Bree, she disappeared back into my mom's house and played victim. She told people I ruined her. She also quietly started avoiding me, which is honestly the first smart thing she's ever done. My SUV situation resolved over time through insurance, but I still took a financial hit, deductibles, time without a car, stress, and the fact I lost the new car dream I'd worked for. But the bigger win was learning something important. My family's love was conditional, and now that I could see the conditions clearly, I could choose whether I wanted to pay that price. I decided I didn't. So here's my Aita question. Aita for calling the police and refusing to cover for my sister after she took my keys at 3 a.m., wrecked my new SUV, lied about it, and my mom demanded I commit fraud to protect her? Because my family keeps saying you could have handled it privately. But privately is where my mom and sister thrive. Privately is where they rewrite. Privately is where I become the villain for having boundaries. I didn't want revenge. I wanted accountability. And I got it. The sweetest part wasn't seeing anyone suffer. It was feeling my life become mine again. That's the end.